What is your reaction to the likes of Kimmel, Colbert, Jen Psaki, Tim Walz, etc.?
Where do you even begin with these morons, Sean?
That's a good question. Would you like me to answer that? You want to be the host? We'll reverse roles here.
President Trump has done more press conferences, more interviews, more transparency, more public accessibility, more hours and hours with the press. He live streams his cabinet meetings for nearly 4 hours. There's no human being in the history of politics who has made themselves more available to the press and the public than President Trump.
So here's the scene. The Trump White House is under fire on two fronts, and instead of sending out a calm, polished spokesperson, they rolled out Stephen Miller on Fox News. And what happened? He didn't just stumble, he absolutely melted down on live television. Screaming, rambling, trying desperately to spin two stories that just won't go away. Now, why Miller? Why now? It's because the walls are closing in. On one side, you've got Donald Trump's health becoming a real issue. People are noticing missed appearances, gaps in his schedule, and moments where he just doesn't look like the man that his team insists that he still is. And on the other side, you've got the Epstein files, the scandal that Trump and his allies are fighting tooth and nail to keep out of the spotlight. And when those two stories collide, the cracks in their messaging become impossible to paper over. Think about it, right? A political machine that once prided itself on discipline, control, and messaging is now showing raw panic on live TV. Miller's collapse wasn't just a bad interview, it was a glimpse into the state of an administration terrified of what's coming next. Instead of deflecting, he confirmed the very weakness they're trying to deny. Trump isn't untouchable anymore. And here's the thing, when you send your attack dog out there and he ends up looking like the one who's cornered, that says more about your crisis than any headline could.
Or who has demonstrated more stamina in public life. I can tell you that every single person who works for him in the White House is outworked by him. He is the first one to call us in the morning, in the early hours of the morning. He is the last one to call us far past midnight on every single work project, whether it's trade, whether it's national security, whether it's the border, whether it's crime, whether it's public safety, whether it is making our cities beautiful again, whether it is making our government responsive, whether it's improving the workforce, whether it is dealing with the need for cheaper housing. You pick the issue. He's on top of it 24/7.
Let's talk about the health issue, because this is the part that Miller really didn't want to touch. The Trump brand has always been built on this image of endless masculine, powerful energy. Remember the rallies where he bragged about being able to go all night without breaking a sweat? That's been central to the myth. Trump as the guy who outworks everyone, the tireless deal maker who never slows down. But lately, reality isn't matching the script. Trump disappeared from public view for several days, something his team brushed off as strategic. But in politics, those gaps don't go unnoticed, right? Then you see him re-emerge, and the signs are kind of hard to ignore. His voice is weaker, his posture less steady, the kind of small details that wouldn't matter for most people, but for someone who built his entire persona around strength, they really stick out. That's why Miller went on the offensive. On Fox, he painted Trump as the most transparent, most accessible, most energetic president in history. According to him, Trump's the first one on the phone in the morning and the last one working past midnight 7 days a week. It was supposed to be reassuring. Instead, it raised the obvious question, if he's that unstoppable, then why wasn't he seen in public for nearly a week? Why the sudden silence? And here's the thing, the health concerns aren't just personal, they're political. Voters want to know if the man asking for their support can physically handle the job, or if they're too weak. Every time Miller screams about Trump's stamina, it just draws more attention to the possibility that he just doesn't have it anymore. And that's why the meltdown matters. Because when the spin sounds that desperate, people start listening a lot closer.
His political puppets to promote his propaganda. Trump and Republicans defunded NPR because they argued it was biased. Trump has removed books discussing racial discrimination at U.S. military academies, including the amazing Maya Angelou's Autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. He's tried to strip funding to schools across the country if they don't remove materials that include discussions of racial discrimination or that promote diversity. And in order for the merger between Paramount and Skydance to happen, the FCC chairman and Republican-appointed commissioners required Skydance to establish a bias monitor. And in its FCC order noted reports, quote, concerning negative media coverage of the Trump administration. This is to say nothing of Trump pushing television networks to get rid of comedians and talk show hosts who criticize his administration, say like Mr. Colbert. Let's call this what it is. It's Trump weaponizing the idea of free speech to force people, institutions, and companies to be his mouthpieces. This ain't free speech, it's propaganda. Meanwhile, my Republican colleagues are out here having a meltdown over the European bill, one that, by the way, includes provisions to fight child trafficking.
Now, let's get into the other fire the White House is trying to put out, the Epstein files. This is the scandal that they wish would just vanish, but it's doing the exact opposite. Congress has been pushing to make more of the Epstein documents public, and each time it gets close, Trump and his allies do everything they can to slam the brakes. At one point, Speaker Mike Johnson even sent Congress home early, literally shutting the place down just to avoid talking about Epstein. That's not spin, that's panic. And it gets even more twisted. Trump and Republicans love to talk about free speech, but what have they been doing behind the scenes? Defunding NPR because they don't like the coverage. Forcing schools and academies to strip books that deal with racism and diversity, pressuring networks to silence late-night comedians who criticize the administration. They've taken the idea of free speech and weaponized it, turning it into a tool to control what gets said and what doesn't. That's not free speech. That's why Representative Jasmine Crockett called it out so directly. She pointed out how Trump uses this fake version of free speech to bully institutions into becoming his megaphones. And when the Epstein issue comes up, same playbook. Distract, deflect, shut it down. But it's not working anymore. More Republicans are breaking ranks, publicly acknowledging that Epstein's crimes just can't be buried. And survivors are stepping forward in bigger numbers, making it impossible to sweep this under the rug. So when Miller went off on Fox trying to scream away the Epstein story, he wasn't just losing his temper. He was showing us how fragile their control over this narrative really is.
We are strong. We are strong because we challenge each other. We are strong because we're held accountable. We're strong because we believe that there's a place for everyone here. Think of how easy it would be to be a damn Republican. Oh, what should I wear today? This stupid friggin' red hat. What should I say today? I don't know, just make sure it's cruel. Who do we listen to? That guy. Oh, the felon in the White House? Yeah, listen to him and that will be fine. Now he's talking about burning flags. He's going to have flag burning or whatever. Because he knows there's a hell of a lot of flags with his picture on it that are going to get burned. There's a whole lot of that kind of crap that people are sick of. And I have to tell you, we can have our internal decision-making, our internal healthy debates, but I refuse to believe we do not have the luxury to fight amongst ourselves while that thing sits in the White House. In the morning and you doom scroll through things and...
Now, if Miller thought his meltdown was going to scare critics into silence, the exact opposite happened. In fact, it gave them even more fuel. Governor Tim Walz, for example, didn't hold back. He called out MAGA directly, describing it as a cult where loyalty to Trump comes before logic or even basic decency. His point was simple. Real strength is about accountability and debate, not blind obedience to a single man. That hit a nerve because it's exactly what we're seeing play out. Republicans who once wouldn't dare mention Epstein are now speaking up. And every time someone breaks ranks, it shatters the illusion of total loyalty that Trump depends on. The cult narrative only works if everyone stays in line. When cracks appear, it looks less like a movement and more like desperation. And then there's the public. People are tired. They see Congress getting shut down just to avoid talking about Epstein. They see Trump ranting about flag burning and media conspiracies while dodging the actual questions. It starts to look absurd. So instead of calming things down, Miller's screaming performance ended up amplifying the very voices the White House wanted to drown out. Instead of burying the story, it pushed it higher in the headlines. And in politics, that's the ultimate backfire, when your spin becomes the proof that something's really wrong. When you step back, the pattern here becomes clear. Trump's health cover-up and the Epstein files fight aren't two separate stories, they're two sides of the same coin. Both are about hiding weakness. Both are about keeping control of a narrative that's slipping away. Trump has always tried to project strength, the businessman who never sleeps, the president who's tougher than everyone else. So when signs of decline show up, the instinct isn't honesty, it's denial. And not just denial, it's aggression. Attack the critics, call the media biased and fake, flood the airwaves with spin. That's why Miller was out there screaming. The same playbook applies to Epstein. The files are dangerous because they contain names, connections, and a history that could shatter reputations. Trump's approach has been to smother the story, shut down Congress, distract with culture wars, pretend it's all fake news. But every time he tries to bury it, every time more survivors step forward, more Republicans speak up, and the story grows louder. At the end of the day, this is about control, but control only works as long as people buy into the illusion.